everyone, and welcome to Friday. We are live with Find My Past Friday. My name is Jen Baldwin, and I am coming to you from Colorado. And I didn't hear the intro music, and I thought it was really weird. And so now I'm really wondering if my volume is working. So if someone out there in the comments could just let me know that you can hear me, that would be great. We have Ellie in the comments today. Everyone say hello to Ellie. I'm guessing you guys can hear me because you're all okay, great. It's fine. Thank you very much, Ellie. Appreciate that. Right. That was just really odd not to hear the music. I do a little dance when I hear the music, and it's like, oh, it's time for Friday. Okay, fantastic. Thanks so much, everybody. I appreciate the confirmation. Okay, so it's Friday. It's August 25th. Can you believe that? It's almost September. It's crazy how fast August went by for me. Absolutely chaotic month, to be honest. Yeah, so I hope everybody is doing well and is enjoying the summer, even though it's almost over. My daughter is already back to school. She's been back for 2 weeks already, and enjoying it so far. So that's good. So I hope everybody is kind of on that same wavelength with me and getting ready for fall. It's actually my favorite season. Going to be honest, I love the autumn. So I'm really pleased that fall is just around the corner. So thanks to everyone for joining. Andrea's here from a cloudy Stoke-on-Trent. Andrew's with us in Lancashire. Lynn is up in British Columbia. Alice, I think that's right. Alice is here with us. I've never seen you before, Alice, in the comments, so welcome. Thank you for joining. Anya's with us, and Flo and Deb. Roz, of course, in Massachusetts. Lynn, Matthew, sunny and warm in Watford, so that's nice. That's good to hear. Matthew, Jane's with us, and Kim. And who else? Let's see. Overcast in Preston, says Jean. Karina's with us, and Ellen. Cloudy in Roscoe today, 75 degrees, so much cooler than yesterday's 97. Yep, Colorado's doing the same thing today, Ellen. We have been in the upper 90s and close to 100 Fahrenheit temperatures for a while now, and today we're under a rain watch and stuff. We're supposed to be getting quite a lot of precipitation this afternoon. I'm really looking forward to that. It's good. Sue is with us. Shirley is in Cambridgeshire. Bethan, rainy day in the Swansea Valley. Oh, Alice is in Australia. Very good. Thank you. Deb is in Denver. Welcome to my neighbor, Deb. Virginia's up in Canada. George is in Essex. Anya's got blue sky. That's good to hear. Brian's in California. Heat's coming back. Oh, sorry to hear that, Brian. Let's see. 38 in Portugal, says Mick. That's good. So Ellie saying, oh, oops, that is the wrong comment. Here it is. Quite like autumn and fall, but only if we've had a decent summer, which we have not had in Scotland. So I have invited my Scottish colleagues to Colorado multiple times now this summer, and no one has picked up on that. So, I'm just saying, the door's always open. Victoria says it's hot and humid in Suffolk, difficult to concentrate. Yeah. Karina's in Australia as well. Jennifer's in Devon. Oh, Angel? I'm not sure if I pronounced that right either. I apologize if I got it wrong. Is in Normandy in France. Karen's oh my gosh, we have people from all over the place. It's so good. Yeah, Anya. See, I keep clicking the wrong thing. Anya wants to come to Colorado. Yes, come. That would be delightful. That's so good. Great. Okay. And Jenny's in Devon, another Jenny. So good. All right. There's a lot of people here today, and that's fantastic. I hope everybody's having a great week or had a great week. We have a lot to talk about, as always. And I am going to talk about a topic that was brought to my attention actually just in the last few weeks or so. I have been digging into British social history in a pretty intense and organized fashion, right? So this is really looking at various aspects of of British culture that I have always wanted to kind of dig into and pursue. So I'm really excited about topics like this. They make me really happy. I love talking about stuff like this. Um, and Victoria's nailed it. We're gonna talk pastries today. Um, this came up. I don't remember how this came up actually, but I picked up on this idea that buns are called different things across the country. And I didn't really know that before. So I started asking my friends and colleagues, "Oh, how would you identify this item?" Right. So that led me to kind of a deeper topic of study. So the question of the week today is, what is a regional tradition or recipe that's influenced your family's customs? We're going to use buns and pastries as our example, but we could really do this with anything. So regional tradition or recipe that has influenced your family in some capacity, and we're going to look at opportunities for possibly for research on these, but we are also just going to have a fun discussion, I think. But before we do that, of course, let's start with new records as we always do. So this week we have Norfolk. We've added quite a lot to our Norfolk collection, to the parish records. Most of the additions that we've made are what we refer to as a rolling release, right? So we're adding more information onto a collection that already exists on the site, and in this case, we're adding records for very specific years. In the baptism category, we've added 3,800 new records from the year 1923, very specifically, right? And some of this is when we get the information from our partner. Some of it is privacy restrictions, right? That 100-year rule. So all of these things kind of play into when and how we publish records. But we've got those 3,800 records of baptisms from 1923. We've got 9,700 banns and marriages for 1939, very specifically, and then just a handful of burial records from 1998 added in. So, you know, a huge range of years: 1923, 1939, and 1998. But if you're looking for anybody or any event in particular in those 3 years, you'll definitely want to go back to the Norfolk parish records and do another search, and see if your person has popped up in this release. Um, and thank you, Ellie, for sharing the link to the blog post on this week's records. If you guys don't pay attention to those, if you don't read those every Friday, I really recommend it, actually, because it's always very descriptive, like what we've added, but there's always some interesting stories that the team digs up as well, and they really um, they really put some time and into kind of exploring the new records. So make sure that you're checking the blog every Friday. And if you're not on our email list, that's a great way to do it, is add yourself to the email list. Okay. The other thing that we added this week is Welsh parish records. Over 25,000 of them. Love a good update to the Welsh collection. I know Ellie does too. So again, these are very specific in terms of the years that we added. So we've added 15,000, almost 15,500 baptisms across 13 counties, all from 1923. And then marriages, again, all 13 across 13 counties, 10,200 marriages added from 1938. So depending on where you're researching, right, there's some really obvious connections back to some of the major collections, right? So if you're looking at marriages, either from Norfolk or Wales, right? We've got 1938, 1939. Of course, we all know that that leads us directly to the 1939 register. Those baptisms coming in from 1923 across both collections lead us all right back to the 1921 census. I almost said 1921 register. So definitely a good way to kind of fill in some of those dots and make sure you've got all the details. Okay. I'm kind of halfway reading all of your question of the week responses as well, while I try to go through new records, because that's what I really want to talk about. So if I give a little smile or something, that's why, because I'm looking at your answers. Okay. On the other side of new records, of course, is always newspapers. Did you know that our newspaper archive now has over 70 million pages of newspaper. I think that's so exciting. Like, it's just every time we hit a mark like that, like a big number, it's always just puts a huge smile on my face. Like, oh my gosh, I could spend the rest of my life just reading historical newspapers and I'd be totally happy. I can't get paid to do that, I don't think. Um, but I could if someone someone would cover my bills. I would happily do that. So 70 million pages now in the newspaper archive. And of course, we are working on the newspaper search experience on Find My Past. There was a session about that a couple of weeks ago. If you missed it, go back and watch. Ellie, I forgot to preempt you that I was going to talk about that. So if you want to grab the link really fast and share it, that would be amazing. But if you haven't seen that video yet that kind of talks through the new newspaper search and the platform, and we had a couple of our product managers on talking about how the newspapers are changing. It's really well worth the watch. um, it's the work that we're doing on the newspaper search is really exciting, and I know that there's a lot more coming, and so it's just like, yeah, it's good stuff. So keep keep watching the newspaper search experience on the Find My Past website, and obviously you can search on britishnewspaperarchive.co.uk as well, but make sure that you're also looking at Find My Past because things are changing, and we're doing some experiments, we're doing some beta testing. Excuse me. And it's just it's really exciting. There's some new tools that are going to be introduced that are just really killer. We're really excited about the newspaper search, and we hope that you guys are too. Um, and as always, offer that feedback, right? If you have feedback for us, we'd love to hear it. So you can send that in via our social media accounts or to support@findmypast.com. Anyway, newspaper archive is now 70 million pages. We added, gosh, sorry, we added over 783,000 pages this week alone. That's a huge number, right? It's an incredible amount of work that goes into publishing new papers, right, new images every week at that quantity. So I'm always impressed with the newspaper team. The new title this week is the Farnworth Chronicle. This is out of Lancashire. We added the years 1906 to 1917. And this paper does have a conservative leaning voice, right? So, most newspapers are biased. But it also includes, and this is featured in the blog post actually, it includes a column called Whispers from the District, which is basically just local gossip, right? But that's huge for us. Like, that's the stuff that we're after when it comes to our family tree and our ancestry and the people in our ancestors' lives, right? We kind of know the gossip. I love a good bit of newspaper gossip. So that's a fun one to read through if you happen to have family from that area. We've also updated the Belfast Newsletter, the Campbellton Courier, the Hoylake and West Kirby News, the Sheerness Times Guardian, and the Suffolk and Essex Free Press. So a lot going on in the newspaper world this week. Be sure to check it out. Look at the new titles. You can see those new titles through the Find My Past blog or the British Newspaper Archive blog. So either way, however you prefer to go about it. Daphne, 70 million pages and still looking for a needle in a haystack. Yep. So that's really well said, actually. I have been scouring the newspapers all week for a very particular family in Cheshire, and they are not there. Like, so I definitely get that. I definitely get that. Sarah says she's late to the party today, but you're always welcome, Sarah. No worries at all. Thank you so much for joining us. We're always happy to have you. And Andrew giving us a little bit of local history. The Bolton Workhouse was in Farnworth, became the hospital later. And of course, that is the paper that we added this week, the Farnworth Chronicle. So that's very good, Andrew. Thanks for helping us make that connection. Excellent. Okay, that is the new records this week. So we're going to turn that off. And we're going to talk about recipes and traditions. So I'm going to put the question of the week back up. I know a lot of you have already been making comments about this, which is great. And I'm going to read through some of these. A regional tradition or recipe that's influenced your family's customs. Wow, really. Talking is hard, guys. Talking is always hard. So there's lots, right? And I think one of the things that I actually am most fascinated by about England and Scotland and Ireland and Wales, and Northern Ireland is that regional difference, right? To me, coming at it from a very American perspective, right? The British Isles really aren't that very big. So when I think about regional dialects, I think about, like the Southeast in the United States, where they have a pretty clear accent, or so, someone from Boston, right? But those are hundreds of miles apart. The regions across England are just as interesting and just as variety. There's just as much variety, right? Because even though it's a smaller country geographically, it's still a very interesting thing to kind of look at those regional changes and how quickly those nuances kind of come in, right? How little distance there is between from one version of something to another. Um, Right. So very good stuff. I'm really kind of fascinated by the whole idea of the regions in England, the dialects, the recipes, the terminology, etc. I am going to share my screen, but I got to kind of move something around here really quick. Give me just a second. We'll pull this up. And I will da, 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 hopefully get this going here fairly effectively, and fairly quickly. So, but still be able to see comments, which is the important part. And oh, nope, I'm clicking the wrong button. No, dear. Now I've gotten it all messed up. I just want to present my screen. There we go. That's the one. Right. So, like I said at the top, of our time together, this all started for me. This whole discussion started a couple of weeks ago, and I realized that there was all these different varieties of British buns, British pastries, British breads, and I kind of knew that in the back of my head, but I hadn't really ever really thought about it very much. So I went to my colleagues in the brand team. Ellie is included in this, and Liam, and I took a very informal and very unscientific poll. Um, and what I ended up with was, how do I even, what I realized actually, even when I was writing this, was how do I even ask this question, right? So as you can see, I had all of these words in my head, but I didn't really understand the nuances to them, right? So I had heard that, a bun could be any pastry, right? A sweet or savory. I had heard that it was, my equivalent of a cupcake, which is the same as a muffin, which in the US is totally not true, right? That's a completely different thing. It could be a bread roll. It could be a rich fruit cake. It could be something that goes alongside a primary entree, like more like a dinner roll, or just a simple piece of bread, or something else altogether, right? So the team came up with a tie between, a bread roll and something that goes alongside a primary entree, and then, the something else altogether was a close runner-up. Um, oh, I should take the question of the week banner off. Sorry, so you can see all of this, and it just kind of started me down this road of, um, how do we, putting ourselves into the perspective of our ancestors, how do we understand the regional differences? How do we understand the variations of language, and how people discussed things like this? So there was quite a lot of discussion around this, and like Ellie said, right, some of us felt very strongly about this question. Right, there was a lot of people, there was a couple people who were saying, like, I don't want to choose, Jen, it's all of the above, or something of that nature. And I forced them to vote, because this is of course a scientific poll, right? Of course it is. um, so, and I really, and yeah, Liam, I was wondering what you were up to with this. These are real questions that I actually had, because it's fascinating to me, right? So what I learned actually is that there are a huge amount of resources on this. So I started getting into this podcast, and it's called, oh, The Things That Made England. Ellie, if you could share that link. They have a 3-part series about This exact question. What is how would you describe, the British bun? How would you talk about the British bun and the history of those products? So if you get the chance and you have a little time while you're doing chores or you're in the garden or something, take a listen to the podcast because it's very amusing, but they do delve into the history of all these different varieties, and it's really quite interesting. Um, And Andrew, this is great. See, this is why I wanted to talk about this with this group because I knew there would be more to add, right? We have proper words for those things on your list, right? Yeah, exactly. And those are the things that I think are really, really fun and interesting to learn about, right? And yeah, an iced bun. Oh, so question of the way this is good. Jen, the difference between cobs and baps. I'm going to get to that. I don't have a link for cobs, although I have read about them now. But I have heard about baps, very passionately heard about baps. This is great fun. All right. So anyway, so I did this little study of my colleagues, and I decided to actually go and see if I could find anything that resembled kind of academic resources on this particular particular question. I love this. Liam saying Andrew's point summarizes why I was so stressed out by this question. Yeah, I didn't actually know I was causing stress when I asked this, but clearly I did. Right. So I apologize to all of my colleagues. So anyway, I went online and I found a number of. I mean, this is a hot topic, right? This is something that is discussed all like very up until very modern terms, right? So there's a number of like newspaper articles about it, and Ellie's going to share some links. There's people who've kind of made some attempts to map this out, but I found a couple that were actually really serious about it. So YouGov has actually done a study. They sampled, a few thousand people across the country in terms of the common names for a bread roll, and they actually, so this is the opening map of their study, but then they take it down and they actually measure each of these different categories, kind of across the use, across the country. I note that Rutland is not included in this in the sample. um, so, so YouGov is an option in terms of their study. You'll find this pretty simply, and I know Ellie's going to share the links. Thank you, Ellie. What do people call right breads and pastries and such? They also found that there are a variety of other names for these products. Most commonly used by only 12% of the English people, right? Muffin at 3%. Um, and it's interesting that I first heard about the muffin discrepancy by someone who lives in Ireland, but it's most exclusively used in Greater Manchester. Um, and then tea cakes and batches, right? So I found all of this really interesting. Um, I'm still reading through the comments as you guys are talking. This is so good. I love that we're having this discussion. So I right. So I'm reading through all the research, and I realized at some point I stumbled across that the University of Manchester actually did a very formal study at this on this particular topic. Right. So they covered rolls, baps, buns, barms, muffins, cobs, tea cakes, and batch. Their sample size was the largest of the studies that I was able to find. And then, of course, they mapped them all. Roll seems to outdo everything in their version of this study. So this is all very good, right? So I am getting to something, I promise. And then I found the our dialects site, which I had never seen before. It is absolutely fascinating. If you haven't seen this webpage, go visit it and spend some time. They have a bunch of different studies like this. They have one on bread products, but they also have a number of other types of studies that kind of debate a number of different regional terms and cultures and preferences. And they have kind of a brief summary of their findings, and then they map it, of course. Now, in their study, BAP came out on top, and then BARM and batch, and bun is actually number 4. So, and roll is actually, I said that wrong. They have it in I thought they had it in order, but roll actually is at the top. I apologize. Roll comes in at almost 37%, and then barm, it looks like. Why didn't they put that in order? Okay, so let's compare our dialects with Manchester. Roll appears to be the leading term across the country. on both studies. So that's very interesting. Right. So we can kind of is role then a generic term for everybody? If you say role, do you all know what you're going to get, or if you go one village over, you're going to get something else? I bet it's something else. Now, where does this all lead us? Right. So um, why do we care, right? Why is this important beyond kind of that regional perspective, regional pride, regional culture, regional fun? I think what really matters is the idea of understanding how our ancestors talked about these things, and the idea of utilizing social history resources to actually understand what they were saying, right? And I've covered this a similar topic before, right, in terms of slang or strict definitions for vocabulary. One of my favorite examples is during the Revolutionary War, where the American side of the correspondence was using the same words as the British side, but the language had changed enough across the two countries by that point that they actually had completely different meanings. And there's at least one historian out there that theorizes that the war never even would have happened if they had sat in the same room and understood what each other was saying, but they were using the same words but had completely different meanings. So, correlate that to bread products. And what we find is that we need to kind of do this study across newspapers and other period printed materials, and we find that there is still a lot of discussion around bread products and the impact of these products, right? So 1846, the North Devon Journal is talking about hot cross buns and their significance to, of course, the religious holidays. But in their summary, they really make this big statement, and they make a real point to say that this is a Roman Catholic tradition. And of course, right, we can go all the way back to the Roman Catholic story and segregation in terms of how these particular products, the hot cross bun, actually even started. Right, and at one point, it was illegal to make hot cross buns in any other time of the year except for around certain holidays that were, of course, religiously based. So I think that was 16th century, I want to say, or 17th century, somewhere in that neighborhood. So newspapers can really give us a good idea of the language of the time and how products were referred to, but we also need to understand what that language meant to that particular location, right? So in North Devon, hot cross buns are pretty universal, but in North Devon, a BAP might be something completely different than a bun, or vice versa. I also learned about the Chelsea roll, which I'm going to try when I come over next. So I just looked at hot cross buns as kind of the most popular example, right? And it's published about in 1900. A London paper also talks about it. They talk about the history of this particular product, and how it came to be. But they kind of talk about this connection back to the Crusades and bringing over the spices and kind of the English population understanding and exploring those particular ingredients to develop what we know today as the hot cross bun. And some of that is still kind of debated. So with all of that said, we're going to go back to your comments, and we are going to talk about your experiences with regional products and regional recipes and how it actually gets incorporated into your family history beyond the idea of like newspaper research, right? Um, there are on Wikipedia, there is a giant list of British breads. So the varieties here are really incredible, right? Okay. Uh, all right. So I'm going to go all the way back to the start of the chat and the initial question of the week responses, and we will see what you guys have come up with. We talked about the weather for a while, weather, and do. Eventually, I'm going to get to question of the week. um, Here we go. Okay, Daphne started us off. Daphne's family traditions. The first thing she said was the Dorset apple cake. That's another one I'm gonna have to try. I love a good apple product with pastry. Um, so that's good. Fish and chips on Fridays used to be the norm for Wendy. Is that still the norm? And is that national? I'm curious, Wendy. That's a real question. Oh, and Ellie's husband seconds the Dorset apple cake. Couldn't get enough of it just as recently as April, so that's good. Georgia went to the hot cross buns, right? Always have hot cross buns at Easter. Made some during lockdown just for something to do. They were horrible and hard. Oh, I'm sorry. There's nothing worse really than spending like all that time on a bread or pastry, something you bake, and then it doesn't turn out right. I totally can sympathize with that. Although I've never tried to make a hot cross bun. Um, I don't think I'm not even sure if I've ever had one actually. I'm sure I must have. I was raised Catholic, so I'm sure at some point that happened in my childhood. I just maybe don't remember. Karen says that these kinds of things haven't really influenced her personal life, but Tottenham cake is from Tottenham, and I have several family lines that pass through there. And my maternal grandfather was a Tottenham Spurs supporter. See, I knew how to pronounce that one. That was good. Excellent. So, um, Tottenham cake. Excellent. Another good regional find. Let's see. Do do do. Right, Kim, her paternal side likes rhubarb cobbler and madder o money cake. These are all new. I'm gonna have to Google like mad when we're done. And the maternal side is unfortunately known for their poisoned plum cake. Okay, I think I feel like I've heard that story, Kim, but that is intriguing. That's a good one. Bethan, there are few things, all foods that I didn't even know were regional or Welsh. Corned beef pasties, having a curry with half and half. I don't know what that is. Some of my favorite childhood memories include walking around Swansea Market with a bag of cockles as a snack. That's nice. Um, I love that. I love that you associate the snack with, kind of this almost, it sounds like almost like a ritualistic thing that you did walking around the market. I wonder if your mom or your dad did that and that's why it became a thing and maybe their parents did that. Interesting if you could kind of trace the idea of bags of cockles as a snack at that particular market and see how long that's been going on, probably a long time. Andrew, lots of local specialties in Lancashire cheese. You had me at cheese. Keep the best to ourselves. All different kinds of sweet cakes, farm and flour cakes, bread you can taste the yeast in. Oh, that's interesting. Morecambe Bay shrimps, black puddings, butter pies, Lancashire hot pot, and one more I'm not going to try to pronounce. Lots of things there, Andrew. So, which ones are you most attached to from your family perspective, right? Which one is traditional with your family, or maybe your parents or your grandparents? And I'm also, this also leads to the other question of like, grandparents and great grandparents would have lived through rationing, World War One, World War Two. So, how did these traditional regional cultures stay alive during those times, or did they not stay alive and did they change into something completely different? Um, it's another line of thinking that I need to look at. Oh, this one. I love this, Ellen. Her husband's family is Slovenian, and no family gathering was complete without potica. I hope I pronounced that right. Which was a nut roll, is a nut roll. It sounds delightful. I love it. Janet never made it, but Bara Brith is rather nice and very Welsh. Okay. I just feel like I need to go on a culinary tour at this point. Yeah. Biscuits served with chocolate gravy topped with butter from Deb. Now, I know that chocolate gravy means something else to you than it does to me. Um, Chocolate gravy topped with butter. I'm trying to picture that. That's a tricky one for me. But this is why I'm having this conversation, right? Because understanding these regional foods and regional traditions is what it's all about. Um, I'm gonna look that one up. Okay. Anya, I remember my grand sister sending her a cake for New Year. Must have been 5 to 7 years old at the time before her sister died. I thought it was a Dundee cake, but years later I realized it was her sister lived in Dundee, but the cake was black bun cake, which is a New Year tradition in Scotland. Um, Delicious but expensive. Okay, black bun cake. I've never heard of that one either. I didn't actually get very far up into Scotland, to be honest. Most of my work has been so far, most of my learning and my blog reading and my podcast listening has been England. I feel like each country is going to open up new doors, right? It's going to be interesting to get into. Karina, Christmas pudding with sixpence and three pences in it. Grandma made it for our families. Now I make it for my grandchildren and families. That's so lovely. I love that. I love that so much. That's exactly the kind of family tradition that stands out to me, right? It's not just about understanding their lives, but it's kind of bringing their lives in to yours, right? And learning that our past actually does have an impact on us today and in our future. I love that so much. And I'm wondering, now it makes me wonder, another line of thinking. I'm really just on a tangent on this, you guys. Um, how many of these recipes are duplicated in local newspapers or other sources, women's magazines, those kind of things? How many are special and unique to your family in particular? It's another way to go about this. Roz says toad in the hole, but not sure where it originated. I am assuming that's some kind of food. It's another one I'm gonna need to Google and look up. Okay. Lynn, as a child, we ate a lot of British dishes. Toad in the hole has popped up again. That's two comments in a row. Shepherd's pie, fish and chips, roast beef dinner with Yorkshire pudding, steak and kidney pie, etc. So I am experiencing these things kind of one at a time. I have had now the roast beef dinner with the Yorkshire pudding, and I'm a big fan. I mean, yeah, I think as children, there's a lot about there's a lot of memories, right, from our childhood that come up, and so again, it goes back to that question of what are our memories and have we preserved them? Are we sharing them with the next generation? But also, are we looking back and saying, why is this a memory, right? Was it your parents, Lynn, that had this kind of um, uh, influence, right? Which one of them also had a lot of shepherd's pie in their childhood, right? It's just probably a staple in a household, certainly. A comment from Angel, and I'm sure I am mispronouncing your name, and I really apologize. I'm from the Black Country in the Midlands, and bizarrely, a dish that is made from tripe. Yeah, but you're vegetarian. Oh, okay, yeah, that's problematic. Now I live in Normandy, and tripe is a favorite in France as well. I will admit I am not a fan of tripe. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, so I had a lot of fish when I was growing up. So and I have tried tripe. I even tried it in England actually, and I will admit, yeah, I'm with you. I'm not a big fan. Oh, I love this. Jane has her grandmother's recipe book, loads of handwritten wartime recipes. She obviously loved a cake, as there are lots. I'm um I'm definitely in this category as well. I love going back to the handwritten recipes. When so I have a cookbook that belonged to my grandmother. It's not hers. It's a published cookbook, but she wrote in it, and clearly wrote, like marked all of her favorite recipes. And it's all cookies. That's all it is. It's just like sweets and cookies. So every Christmas I get that out, and I make recipes, or I make cookies from grandma's cookbook. So I love that very much. One of the things that my sisters and I talked a lot about, actually, when my mom passed away a couple of years ago, was some of her traditional recipes that we all remember, and we were trying to desperately find the fruitcake recipe. Now, none of us really liked fruitcake very much, but it was mom's recipe, and we knew in our memories collectively, we knew that it was on an index card, like 3 by 5, and I mean, we could picture it, but it took us forever to actually find the card itself. We finally did, and my sister has it, and has scanned it and shared it with us and all that. But oh man, I don't know. There's just something so personal and something so vibrant about using your person's actual recipe with their handwriting and their variations. It's just so cool. So cool. All right. Karen says her family's husband comes from Pyongyang. Oh, and they have a lovely layer cake. All family that visits always brings me one from Sunflower Bakery. Now, is that local or is that something special? Thin batter layers with cinnamon in between. Sounds good. Love a good cinnamon something something. Anya's got comments about tripe as well. That's good. Jean, this is not question of the week related, but it is newspaper related. So looking for updates on Warrington newspapers, as they are very sporadic. Jean, thank you so much for that comment. We will take that back to our newspaper team and see what we can do. Can't make any promises, of course, because I don't have the list in front of me, but we will definitely take that feedback into consideration as we're working on publication schedule for the next few months. Thank you very much for making the comment. Virginia likes a good Victoria sponge. Roz says, we always had bubble and squeak the week after Christmas to use up leftovers. I'm gonna have to figure out what that is too. Bubble and squeak. Never heard of that one either. This is basically just me learning about pastries. You guys realize that, right? Oh, and Karen, yeah, don't go down the scone debate. Cream first or jam. Yeah, I learned pretty quickly that this is a very, very serious issue. And I'm just gonna, that's all I'm gonna say about it. Um, Homemade brown soda bread always features for Sarah. Shirley making the firm statement that a bun is usually sweet, often with raisins in it. And and yet I have all these links to savory buns. So yes, it's a lot. There's so much to learn and listen to. Right. Victoria thinks of an iced bun, sweet and sticky, right? Loved by the children, right? And frosting, I would probably really enjoy that as well. It needs to go with a cup of coffee, I feel like, or possibly tea. Okay, Liz has a nice long comment. Easter biscuits are family favorite, but it was only when I moved away from the West Country that I realized they were regional. Okay, great. It's exactly what we're talking about today. They contain cassia oil, which is also used to treat fungal infections. Oh, pharmacies in Somerset stock it in the run up to Easter. I use edible quality oil nowadays, which I have to obtain online. Can't help but wonder why someone thought it was good to use in the first place, though. My gosh, cassia oil. Okay, Liz, that's fascinating. There's so many angles there, right? So you've got a family favorite that is very strictly regional. Let's break this down. You have a strange ingredient that is used to treat fungal infections that could or could not be actually edible. But it's so well known regionally that the pharmacies stock up on it in the weeks leading up to Easter. So it's obviously very popular, right, and very heavily used in these particular Easter biscuits. What an interesting little story. So, how does this start? Where does it come from? How long has it been a thing? Right? Like, oh gosh, I have so many questions. Yeah, this is brilliant, actually. Anya's got a nice attitude about this. I'm not bothered. If it's cake, I would like some. I'm with you. Anya, you come over to Colorado and we will we will go down the cake road. All right. Um, yeah, the debate is so fierce today. I love this. I love this discussion. All right, another comment. Having spent a lot of time with my father's family in Ireland as a child, I was used to bara breath, soda bread, barmbrack, which you can tell I have to clearly think about as I'm reading, which I did not have in the Midlands where I grew up, but found some of the Irish types could be found in north of England. Okay, that kind of makes sense, right? The space between the two isn't that big, really, geographically. Interesting. Okay, good. I'm glad that we're finding some crossover actually between various regions. That's fun. I would Irish bread, Irish soda bread is incredibly popular over here, right? You see it all over the place all the time. As if it's the only type of bread ever produced in Ireland, right? But all things Irish, right? America loves all things Irish. Right. So we've got some more debate about the cakes, right? So Kim saying tea cake has currants in it, bread cake is plain. Rosie, tea cakes can either be the ones with fruit in it or the mallows covered in chocolate. Interesting. Karen, tea cake is sweet with dried fruit, have toasted with butter. Yeah, this is good. This is good. And then Virginia piping in with the enigma of the tea cake in Lancashire versus England. I feel like I'm going to have to I'm just going to have to go through this whole culinary tour and it's never going to be settled, right? That's the fun part about discussions like this is we can continue to dig into these conversations and no one will ever just say this is what it is because it is different to everybody. This is so good. All right. And this is what yeah, this is pretty much what I'm getting to, right? This is all leading up to me asking you to bring a variety of cakes and buns for her the next time she's over. So I will admit that one of these conversations with my colleagues at Findmypast actually led to another realization, and it was the I might get this wrong, but a chip sandwich no, a crisp sandwich, sorry, like potato chips, potato crisps, bread, and I think they said mayonnaise? No, butter, butter. Um, there was some debate about which type of crisp to use and which type of bread to use. So I believe there is a crisp sandwich meal being planned when I'm over next. I'll be over in England in a couple of weeks for an event with our team at Quarry Bank and National Trust for the Heritage Open Days. But I'm going to stop in London for a couple days first, and I'm pretty sure that there is a sandwich being planned, as well as sausage sandwich. As you can see, the conversation spanned a huge, vast kind of scope of food. But Liam, Ellie, if you so desire to share a variety of cakes and buns, I won't complain. I'd be, I'd be okay with that. All right. Let's see. Oh, okay. A little flash there. Some suggestions then for that experiment: black bun cake and Dundee cake should be included. That's so good. And then, more discussions about jam and cream. Always very good. Okay, Ellen saying that her mom's mom, who was Welsh Irish, used to serve us kids tea. Whatever she served us was delicious, and I was too young to ask exactly what it was. It's a shame if you missed that. I wonder if anybody else in your family might know, but you should definitely try. Ellie here agreeing that we need to bring a selection for me to try. I am all in, guys. Like, yeah, let's take pictures and stuff. It'll be fun. Um, yeah, and Gina saying, let's make it a full-on experiment, like an experience, right? You'd have to include all the variations of regional names for each item. I'm all in for like a real full-on scientific study. Yeah. Okay. And then we went into fish and chips. You strayed so casually from buns and pastries to fish and chips. Like, there's multiple comments about fish and chips. Fish Friday, right? Catholics couldn't have meat on Fridays. Yeah, absolutely. Was raised that way. Fish and chips a Friday thing. Religious, yes, absolutely. Fish and chips on Friday. Not Catholic, just dad just like fish and chips. How did that happen? We had a very specific mission today about buns and pastries, and you went fish and chips. There's another one. Couple more. No, that's all right. I'm totally joking. Um, half rice and half chips. That stopped me. Okay, didn't know that. Um, Food culture is really delightful. This is a great conversation. Mother-in-law, Victoria says, used to make parkin and she's from Yorkshire. Traditional ginger cake flavored with molasses and spices. Didn't like the one my husband made though. It's funny. Right. Yeah, Liam, this is a good topic for me because I just had breakfast, but for everybody else who's leading up to the dinner hour, fish and chips, half and half curries, we're making everybody hungry. I hope everybody goes out and like has like some really fantastic traditional meal tonight, or over the weekend. Right, get yourself something regionally specific and enjoy it. Um, Victoria's the same. It's this torture. What a buffet with all the goodies. Um, Gosh, there's so much. So in my family, let's see, I'm trying to think. Um, Definitely a lot of Southern cooking. My mom was raised in Alabama, so there's a lot of Southeast American cuisine. We definitely had big traditions around the holidays, right? Easter for sure, but also kind of Christmas and Thanksgiving. My mom's fruitcake was absolutely traditional, but we didn't eat it very much. She made them and then she sent them to her family members kind of all over the country as a gift at Christmas time. So I remember lots and lots of fruitcake. Um, what else? My mom was very much into pastries and she did all the cooking in our house. Dad didn't really cook. So lots of cakes and desserts and pies all the time. Like, it actually got to the point where like pastries and desserts weren't really that special because we just always had them because my mom just loved to bake. So, there was always a cake on the counter. There was always something with frosting. Always. And lots of whipped cream. Oh, toad in the hole is sausages and batter. Thank you, Shirley. Didn't Okay, sausages and batter. Interesting. All right. Oh, And everybody's feeding in on that now. Toad in the holes mentioned in bed knobs and broomsticks, really tasty, even the veggie versions, right? So thanks for those sausages and Yorkshire pudding. So even here we can't agree on what toad in the hole is. Although Georgia and Karen agree. Sausages in batter like Yorkshire pudding. Oh, I see. Oh, that's what you mean by okay, got it, got it. Oh, this is one I haven't heard of either. Andrew, sea pie, dried peas and minced beef with a suet crust. Mom's mom learned it from her mom. That's fantastic. That's an incredible piece of family history, and it's not just a tradition, it's something that you could research, it's something that you could, actually pull in other sources from. I love it, I love this. Okay, meat pie with tomato sauce. This goes on forever. You guys are still pulling in all the comments. Um Andrew's saying he has a great fruitcake recipe, which my mom has made all her life. I am guessing that your mom's fruitcake recipe is very different than my mom's fruitcake recipe. Um, I think I'm from what I know about fruitcakes in England, very very different product actually. Um, Macaroni pie. Did I miss something? I missed something in the comments. Macaroni pie. Okay. Um, Thank you. Bubble and Squeak is fried leftover potatoes and cabbage. Oh, okay. All right. Um, Leftover mashed potatoes and cabbage. Leftover potatoes and veg. It sounds interesting. Yeah, okay. Good, good, good. Ugly buns. Did I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. Oogly Buns. They have their own Facebook page. Of course they do. Um, Anya, Anya getting into Scottish soft drinks. I'm not going to touch this. I tried once. I probably am not going to do it again. Yeah. Oh, chip buddy. That's yes. Thank you, Karen. Yes, that's what it was referred to. Crisp sandwiches, buddy instead of sandwich. Yeah. Thanks for the corrections. You can see my reading of the comments is far behind where you guys are at. Um, Staffordshire oat cakes. Okay, that's another one. Um, all right. There are so many comments here. This is so good. The talk of food is making me hungry. Yep, 100%. But such an interesting way to learn about ourselves, about each other, right? Our community as a whole, the Find My Past community, which is fantastic because we just spread all over the country or all over the world. Um, but I also love that we have all of these memories that we can actually now go back to, and we can say, "Gosh, where are these in newspapers? When did this tradition start? When did this recipe first come up? When did people start using oil that works for fungus in an actual pastry recipe?" Like, um, it's just it's such an interesting topic, right? The idea of food and tradition and family and actually being able then to go back and do the academic pursuit of that. You guys are still going on and on. It's just so good. Um, and then, yeah, after my own heart, Ellen, US fair food, deep fried Oreos, deep fried everything, actually, really. It's not good for us, but it is delicious. You got to admit. Okay. I'm gonna make sure that we mention a couple of things. Ellie put in the comments for us. Thank you, Ellie. Sunday, September 17th at Quarry Bank. If you happen to be near Cheshire in the Manchester area, we would absolutely love to see you. You can find all the information on the link that's in the chat at heritageopendays.org.uk. The Find My Past team will be there. There's several of us that are going to be there. Actually, I think around 10 of us that are going to be there on Sunday. We'll be doing some short talks, and we'll have just us there to help answer questions and get people going and meet people. We're really, really excited to do this event. Last year we did it, Heritage Open Days event at the Savoy Hotel, which you may have seen kind of clippings and images from. This year we're doing the event on Sunday as well, and it's open door. Of course, it's Heritage Open Days, so it's free entry into Quarry Bank, and it's just going to be a lot of fun and really exciting. And you would get to meet some of us. And that's my favorite part about events like this is actually meeting all of you and putting names and faces together for the first time in many cases, right? Some of you, you have your actual photos as your profile pictures, but it's just not the same. And I love the energy that comes from events like this when the community gets to come together and engage with each other on a one-on-one basis. So if you happen to be in the area and you stop by, please, please, please make sure to say hello and make sure you tell us like I'm here and I'm on Find My Past Fridays every week and make that connection with us because we love it. This is the stuff that it's a lot of work, but this is the stuff that the team just lives for. So if you want to know more, follow that link, and we would love to meet you and take pictures and do all the things. And let's make those connections in person when we get the opportunity to do so. So um, Anya saying everyone's going to bring cake to Corey Bank now. That's fine. Yeah, we can just sit around and eat cake. Um, Victoria, I do remember this. You did grab me a pastry while at the Savoy. I needed something to eat. It was a very, very busy day. And yeah, the last thing you do is eat. Victoria, that was so appreciated. I can't even begin to tell you. And it was delicious too. Yeah. So if you get the chance, please do stop by and let us know. It has been a fast hour, Gina. I totally agree. But thank you so much for joining us. As always, we love Friday sessions, and this is like I think for the hosts, this is probably the most fun we have all week. And and they pay us to do it. It's crazy. So have a fantastic week and weekend. Enjoy some local cuisine, get out there and try something new, maybe challenge yourself to something that you've never had before. And again, like as we said, if you can join us at Corey Bank in a couple weeks, please do so. We'd love to see you. But join us again next week, of course, for Find My Past Friday. We'll be back. I don't remember who's on the schedule next week. I know I read it, but I don't remember who it was. And do a little digging online and see what regional foods you can find that maybe you didn't know about for either your current location or the location that your ancestors came from, and figure out what your regional food is all about. Oh, it's Daisy next week. Thanks, guys. All right. Have a great, it is a bank holiday. That's right. I forgot. Have a good long weekend for those of you who get one. And we'll see you next week. Until then, enjoy your research.